The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. Next, we would like to now hand over to counsels for the accused persons, and starting from counsels for Mr. Nguyen Chia first. Before we hand over to counsels, the Chamber wishes to inform to parties to the proceedings that during today's session and from the until the end, since Judge Yuadra has grave health concerns, he cannot attend or cannot sit during this time. We have discussed with judges of the trial chamber and managed to have Judge Tumani be in place of Judge Yuadra during this time. We have applied this rule pursuant to Internal Rule 79, subparagraph 4. Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia, you may now proceed. Counsel Son Arun. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. And good morning to you, Mr. Sun Kanal. I am Son Arun, representing Mr. Nguyen Chia along with my colleagues, and I have a few questions. I may need half an hour to put these questions to you. First question to you is as follows. When Mr. Kanal, you worked at the printing house in 1973, starting from 1973, did you ever see the revolutionary flag magazines and use of magazine being printed at that house? Response. During the time from 1973, I saw the revolutionary flag magazines and the United Front magazines. Question, did you print them or did you only see them printed? Response, we did not print the revolutionary flags. They were printed by the upper echelon. But when it comes to the United Front magazines, these magazines were printed by the printing house I worked. Thank you. Just now, you stated that you saw the revolutionary flag magazines. Did you read them? Did you read them thoroughly? Response. I may respond as follows. At that time, I was in the youth league. I was not entitled to read the revolutionary flags. So I have no idea what could have been in the revolutionary flag magazines, but I did read the United Front magazines. Thank you. Under document E3/411 ERN 00373516 in Khmer and English 0390032 and French 00424043. The co-investigator think judges asked you these questions. When you had been with Kai Pok, did you know when Kai Pok made a decision to arrest people? And you said Kai Pok never used his authority to arrest people on his own. Normally, the arrest that was made in the Central Zone would be decided by the Central Committee. Do you still stand by your statement? Response: Yes, I do. And if you want me to even elaborate on this, I will be happy to do so. Counsel: Thank you anyway. I have a few more questions. How did you know that orders were rendered from the central level for the arrest? Did you ever see how these orders were rendered, or did you just learn about this through grapevine? Response: When the arrest was made, the decision was made from the Central Committee, because indeed that there must be always a decision before an arrest was made, and Kai Pok only acted upon orders. And I can even say further that people disappeared. So decisions must have been made, and they must be made by the upper echelon. And the reason I said upper echelon made such decisions because I rely on the message I received from the messengers who brought in these orders through their messages. Question: I may seek some clarification. You said messengers brought documents. What kind of documents they brought? First, I asked you how you knew about this, but now you already responded that you learned about this through documents. Again, how were these documents sent to people concerned, and how did you know about this? Response: The documents about the arrests were sent from the Central Committee because I am sure that in reality, first, I believe that when arrest was made in the division or at the regiment or the ministry, no arrest could have been made without such order. And Kai Pok would tell me about this. He said that whenever decision was made from the Central Committee, then arrest must be made. If the decision was rendered from the zone, he would also have some reservation. Question: You said about this, but what happened to the people at a lower level, the rank and file people, or perhaps the ordinary people like the chief of the cooperatives? Did they have to receive orders from the central zone or the Central Committee or the zone before they could make any arrest? Response: For the rank and file cadre or ordinary people, I believe that in the zone, the secretary of the zone was in charge, and he told me that the zone secretary told me to be very careful, that I could be at very great risk if I committed wrongdoing. As long as there was no decision from the center, I would be spared, because if it were to be sent from the zone, then he would have some reservation for his subordinates. But if it was to be sent from the center, it would be a very decisive decision, and that arrest would be made ultimately. And as I stated also in my testimony, that if the arrest warrant or order was made from the zone committee, it could be arbitrary, and we could also challenge or give some reasons why this and that person was mistakenly arrested. Question. You said the senior leaders or senior cadres were arrested by the orders from the Central Committee in Phnom Penh. My question to you is about the arrest of low-level people. You said that decision of to arrest lower people like ordinary person would be rendered from the zone. Where were they sent to after being arrested? Response. As I already emphasized, people held different role and functions. For example, at which rank people could be sent to at which location. And some people at cooperatives were arrested and sent to the respective place. Although I cannot understand much about what happened, I worked at the section where I dealt with the military rather than the civilians. So I basically do not really have a lot of information about the civilians, as I told you. Even the soldiers themselves who had to be engaged in the battlefields, in the battlefronts, many of whom did not know what happened to the loved ones back home. Question. I may go back a little bit. You said that the Central Committee would render order to the zone to make some arrests. But you don't know what happened to the arrest orders that may have been rendered from the lower level cadres. But could you tell the chamber, please, did you only learn about all this through the telegrams you received from the Central Committee? Response. I learned about this because indeed I noted through the telegrams, and at the same time I also learned about the names of individuals who would be listed in letters where messengers would pick and send. But the letters were of strictly confidential nature. Counsel Sonarun. So this means that for the strictly confidential letters, you would not be able to understand what they were about. You only understood about the open letters. Is that correct? Response. If the messages were of open nature, then I would be able to read them, to understand them, and I was not allowed to understand the strictly confidential messages. Question. You talked about some strictly confidential letters. Why were there strictly confidential letters and why there were open telegrams? Response. The telegrams and confidential letters are classified into two subcategories. First, telegrams were used for example, Kai Pok was supposed to pick up a letter and this message would be communicated through a telegram. However, when the letters, the content of the letters would not be known to me. But at the same time, as I told you, the messengers whose office was not far from my telegram section would go to Phnom Penh to pick up the letters or send the letters. But I could see from coming back, these gentlemen would share with me that something went wrong. Question. You also stated before the co-investigator this morning that you attended the open assembly meetings during the time when you was not fully engaged with your work, and the meetings were chaired by Kai Pok. Can you please give me give the chamber an example of a meeting you attended, the content of which that was very important? If it was very important, how important was it to you? Please tell the chamber. Response. It's not difficult to respond to your question. Indeed, I was there and I engaged in the meetings. During meetings, we knew already that during that time the regime changed and people were needed at work. And at that time, they would like to convert the conventional or traditional agriculture techniques to the modern agricultural methods, approaches. So we were talked about how to make sure that we modernize our way of doing farmings. And then we were asked to build dikes and dams, irrigating system, and agriculture dominant the whole meetings every now and then. Question. So during the open session assembly meetings, you said that the agricultural aspect would be mainly discussed. Was there any other important topic as important as that of agriculture being discussed during the meetings as well? Response. There were some meetings as well that agricultural aspects would not be discussed. However, it would be done in a secret meeting that I would not be allowed to attend, and I don't know. Question. Mr. Witness, I have listened to your testimony, and you have high skills in telegrams. Were you skilled only in typing Morse or decoding the telegrams, or were you also skilled in doing other tasks other than just Morse operation, Morse code operation? Response: I think, to put it simply, I was trained in Morse code operation, and here, when I am testifying before the chamber, I take the stand to talk about the period of the 3 years of 8 months, 20 days. And I was confined to dealing with Morse code operation, and I also provided training to some of my young trainees, but I was never assigned to decode telegrams. However, after that period of time, I believe I had some basic knowledge to understand how telegrams could be decoded. Question: I think I asked this to a lot of witnesses who took the stand. In particular, when it comes to the term copy or CC, and the address on the top of the letter which read "to beloved, missed brother," so on and so forth, and then copy to brothers Noon, Haim, Wan. I would like to ask you whether you can shed light on the power of the addressees and the people who copied in the letters. So who held more authority than who? Response: I don't think I understand your question yet. Repeat it. Counsel, my apologies for not making myself clear. Indeed, I said I asked a lot of witnesses who took the stand about the meaning, the authority of the people who were the recipients of the letters and the people who were supposed to be copied in the letters, because there are 2 different sections on each letter. The first part was to address to Brother Paul, to beloved brother, so on and so forth. And underneath the letter, there would be a section when these following people would be copied. So, again, to your understanding, what kind of authority or power did these 2 different groups of people in the letters hold? Response: these 2 groups of people are different in the letters. As you already emphasized, I have to avail myself to explain to you as follows. During the democratic Cambodia, there were 2 kinds of regimes, a system, the free and the socialist system. If you send a letter to one person, then you would address only individual, for example, to brother or to uncle. Then, if the letter was sent to that person, then we would receive some advice from him or her to copy the letter to others. So you may see that if there was only one addressee on a letter, you know for sure that only one person would be informed. But during the regime, there were a lot of meetings, the self-criticism sessions, where people had to understand what happened to others. So they do not want to risk addressing one person at one time, because only one person would know anything about the letter if you address that person alone. That's why there was an advice to copy other people so that the message could be informed to every or maybe more people at the same time. Question. I may seek your clarification again. For example, if the letter was to address to Paul or brother Paul, the person, the addressee would be the one who had to implement the letter. What about the person who was copied? What did he have to do with the letter? Response. I think it is not difficult to explain the term addressed to and copied. For example, addressed to Uncle Paul and then copied to this and that person. The person who was copied could have been the head of the ministry or secretary. These people would not carry out or execute the content of the letter because he or she was there to be informed. The person who would have to carry out the actions or instructions in the letter would be the one on top, or in other words, the addressees or addressee. And again, as I told you, every time there was a self-criticism meeting, and for that, to make sure the message discussed in the meeting is well informed to other people, then the letter has to bear some copy section. Council Sonarun, I'm afraid you did not get my question clearly. I may ask you again. In almost every telegram, on top you would see address or to brother Paul or Uncle Paul or just Uncle. There are different telegrams bearing different addresses. But then beneath the letter, you see CC or copied to individuals, a few names, maybe sometimes Uncle Noon, sometimes Uncle One, so on and so forth. So my question to you is, who implemented the telegrams? The people on the top or addressees, or the people in the copied section? Response. Allow me to respond to your question as follows. Indeed, who implemented the letters? It is the Central Committee who implemented this. For example, if the letter was addressed to Paul, Uncle Paul, and as the president, he would need to inform other people. That's why he has to make sure that the letter was also, or telegram was copied to other people. So altogether, these people were implementers. Question. So to you, the term CC or copy to and address to bear the same meaning. There's no difference in its meaning. Is that correct? Response. To me, it is correct. Question. I have another question to you, which is not different from that I asked you now about telegrams. Document E3/932 states that to the 870 beloved 8 committee, and then in their telegram, Nuon, Wan, Won, and office and documentation were copied. Can you please tell the chamber how you can explain to the chamber concerning this letter? On top, you see that the letter was addressed to the committee 870, and then these names of individuals were listed as people who were copied. So who was in the office 870? And this morning you talked to you responded to the civil parties. Rather, I think I rather mixed up things again. I mixed this part of my next question in the first question. My apologies. So my question to you again, when the letter was addressed to Committee 870, was 870 committee a person or an object? If it was a person or not a person, why was it addressed to? Response. I may explain to you the meaning of 870 committee as follows. When 870 committee was addressed, it means at that time there could be a lot of people in the committee. It could be referred to other people, but they would not wish to write a lot. For example, they would not need to detail all the names in the committee. They would like to shorten the telegram by addressing 870 alone. There was time that the letter was addressing to even 870. So when it was addressing 870, it meant to address everyone in that committee, not just one person. Question, I still don't understand your response. So are you still of the opinion that Committee 870 was an object, an abstract thing, rather than a person? And then, when the letter was addressed to 870, then a few people were copied, like Uncles, Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, things like that. This group of people were people indeed, but the above addressee was an object to us. But to you, was it an object or person? Response. Again, the term 870 committee here refers to a group of individuals. That's why people did not need to waste their time addressing each and every one there. They had to only address one committee as a whole. But if they have to they have to copy some people with individual names, then they have to write down their name clearly because they want only this group of people to be informed. But when they address the office or committee 870 as a whole, then they wouldn't need to write the names in detail.
Early this morning, you told the lawyer for the civil party that the work on the construction of dam did not appear to be fair because there were members attached to certain groups were strong physically and others were very weak. So it was not fair in that sense. So I would like to ask you to your knowledge whether or not you know the arrangement of the assignment of work. Was it the decision of the leader of the site, of each construction site, for example, or it was the decision of any other authority? If you understand my question, please proceed. Otherwise, I may try to simplify it. I know that I've been not smooth in putting this question to you.
បញ្ហាចម្លើយនេះខ្ញុំនឹងបកស្រាយដោយមិនពិបាកទេ
Response. I don't find this question difficult to respond because I was involved in the work myself. You want to know the people who had the authority to assign people to the construction site. And how did I know that certain people who were physically weak were assigned to certain group and others were assigned to different group? Of course, in each work site, there was the team leader, there was the overall leader of the team, and they held respective authority and position. Those who work in the team, they had to monitor their team, and those who work in the squad, they had to handle the task in the squad. How did we know that there were people who were weak physically? Because it was simple at that time. Following the day work, they would convene a meeting. They would assemble and discuss the outcomes of the work for the day. So upon summarizing the outcome of the work, then they would see whether or not any one group would need additional forces or they had any problems. So by looking at the report, we found out that there were people who were greedy, people who were lazy. As I told the prosecutor earlier on, that I examined the workforce, and I found out that there were only very few people who were very committed to the work. And during the meeting, there were some people who were very eager to complete the dam construction. But some people did not take into consideration the reality of the workforce we had. For example, if the workforce we had was very limited and the work expectation was huge, we could not achieve the work plan. But at that time, each group set forth a clear work plan for them to achieve. As for myself, I could not complete much of the work because I did not do only one job. I had other tasks to accomplish as well. Question. Yes, I understand that there were a clear-cut command and there was a division of work over there. But you said that there were certain groups which were strong and others were very weak, and as a consequence they could not accomplish much work. So my question to you, I would like to know the authority, who had the authority to command the work at the construction site? Was it from the team leader at the site, or it was the authority or order from people elsewhere?
នៅចំណុចនេះខ្ញុំ
Response. At that time, all depended on the collective spirit. By collective spirits, I mean that people met before they carry out any activity, and then they draw the lesson learned from what they have done. And as I told you, following the day of work, they would meet. There was the monitoring system in place at that time. So in the evening, they would convene the meeting, or they meet once every 3 days. So once they see the outcome of the work, then they would devise a plan in order to achieve additional work. So we draw lesson learned from the activities we do every day. Council, I don't think that you have answered my question anyway, but that's fine. I move on to my last question. You have told the court that you joined the revolution in 1971, and then you stay with the revolution until several years after that. How many years did you work in the revolution, and what were the positions you held throughout the period? Did you remain with the telegram unit throughout the period, or you had any other position? Response. Let me clarify my position. I joined revolution in 1971, and I joined the revolution for 6 months. Then they sent me to work. At that time, actually, I was not yet the telegram or MOS operator, because there was no machine. So upon completing my study, I worked with the printing house, and then I also was involved in the battlefields. And then once the MOS machine, telegram machine, was sent, then I was sent to work. So when there was a battlefield in Prekram, they also sent the telegram there. Then I started working as a telegram operator over there, and I did it all the time until 1979. I was involved in managing the telegram technicality until 1979, but later on there were people joining me as well in a team working that. So it was like working in mechanics as well. There must be team leaders, and there were support members as well. So at that time, I worked as the telegram operator. Council, I thank you. I thank you, witness, for answering my question, and I thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. And my international colleague does not have any question to put to this witness, so I cede the floor to the other defense teams. President, thank you, Council. Now I hand over to the defense team for Mr. Ieng Sari to put the questions to the witness. You may proceed, Council. Council Angadam. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning to the learned colleagues from the prosecution, lawyers for the civil party, everyone in and around the courtroom. Good morning, Mr. Sun Kanil. My name is Angadam. To my right, Mr. Michael Kanavas. We are the defense counsel for Mr. Ieng Sari. For now, I have only 2 or 3 questions to put to you, and I try to make it succinct. You have told the court of your work and various tasks you are aware. Now, my first question concerns with your knowledge of the Office 870. Now, did you ever work or have any contact whatsoever with Office 870 at that time? Response. During the Democratic Cambodia, office age 70 or people worked at age 70, I was not entitled to contact them, or I had nothing to do with age 70. The zone committee would have the direct contacts with them. As for myself, I had nothing to do with it. Council, thank you. So it is fair to say that you never attended meetings at age 70 or you had any work at age 70. So my follow-up question to you, did you happen to know the routine work of age 70 or the internal working arrangement or working procedure at age 70 at all? Response. The management or operation of age 70 was beyond my knowledge. I never had any contact with them because at that time we had to mind our own business. People at the zone had to mind their own business at the zone. People at the center had to do the same at the center level. Council, I don't have any further question, Mr. Sun Kanel. On behalf of the defense team for Mr. Ieng Sari, I would like to thank you for availing your time to testify before the court. I thank you very much for your endeavors in responding to my question. I wish you the best of luck. President, thank you, Council. Now I hand over to the defense team for Mr. Kyew Sampon to put the question to the witness. Mr. Sun Kanel, you may proceed, Council. Council Kung Samon. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. Sun Kanel. I have a minor question concerning your capacity and knowledge of Morse operation. How long did you learn how to operate Morse? Response. When the investigator went down to interview me, I told them literally, I joined the revolution, and they told me that I had to change my mind. In other words, I had to let go my previous educational background. Council, well, I think that you did not get my question. I would like to ask you specifically on Morse training. How long did you receive the training? Response. I remember it very well. I studied Morse operating for 3 months, for only 3 months. And at that time, they told us that those who learn to operate Morse had to undergo training for 3 months, and those who want to become the repairer, then they would take the course up to 6 months. Council, did you learn any other thing other than Morse operating? For example, were you trained how to decode telegram message? Response. At that time, I did not have any other training, other task whatsoever. I was trained purely on Morse operation. At that time, they wanted to designate people to do certain jobs specifically. So I had to learn how to operate Morse at that time. And at that time, they were very specific. I learned how to operate Morse, and I had to do this job throughout the 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days period. Question. Can you explain the court how do you do when it comes to operating the Morse? Response. This is a technical aspect, and I master the skills very well. At that time, Morse had different codes and had, for example, we have tic-tacs for number 1. There were short numbers and long number, and how we put this in order. Short number used for messages, long number used for the letterhead, for example. So at that time, these were the technicalities, and there were actually competition as well in studying in the team. Some of my friends who finished the training course were sent to work as pilots. Some was asked to do the job in the Navy or on the ship or so. So at that time, I was a bit smart myself, and then I joined the revolution, and people asked me to do many questions. So upon receiving for example, telegrams, and you were supposed to type using the Morse code, normally you receive it in number form, not in a letter form. Is that correct? Because they were coded. Is that correct to say so? The response. In typing Morse, actually it's all in numbers. No letters, characters at all. And in 1974, Cambodian administration at that time became smarter, because they learned how to modify numbers. They learned how to incorporate other technical aspect into it as well. They use different codes, numbers and characters. For example, if in the French alphabet A, B, C, D, or for example, these are the universal signs or codes. Defense Council. Let me interrupt. You have actually responded to my question, so I don't need any detailed description of the technicality of that. I thank you very much for answering my question. I don't have any further question. Thank you. President. Thank you, Mr. Sunkaner. Your testimony has come to an end now, and your presence at the Khmer Rouge Tribunal is no longer needed. So you are now released. You may go back home or go to any direction you wish to go. The Chamber wishes to take this opportunity to thank you very much for making every effort to respond to the question and cooperates with the Chamber. And I believe that your testimony will contribute significantly to ascertaining the truth and conducive to the court as a whole. I wish you the best of luck and safe trip back home. Court officer is instructed to facilitate the arrangement for the transfer of the witness back to his home. And the Chamber wishes to advise parties and members of the public that the Chamber is going to hear the witness TCW 220, but the Chamber will not be able to hear witness TCW 620 today because this said witness had a road accident, so he cannot come to testify in the court since he is being hospitalized at the moment. Court officer and the witness support sections are now instructed to locate the witnesses who are in the list of witnesses to be summoned by the Chamber who are close to the ECCC that we can actually summon to come to testify, but unfortunately there is none, so the Chamber cannot hold the hearing within this week. The President, due to unexpected change in the circumstance surrounding the testimony of the witness, following the conclusion of the testimony of the witness at question, the Chamber is scheduled to hear the testimony of TCW 620, and the Chamber has already advised parties and members of the public that following the information by the witness support section, the named witness cannot come to testify in court due to his accident. But the witness support section is making every effort to find the witness or the civil parties who are able to come to testify this week. If the witness support section cannot get them by this afternoon or tomorrow, then we will have the information by Wednesday. The Chamber wishes to advise parties concerned to be prepared that the Chamber may resume the hearing later this week. Once the witness support section can get the witness or civil parties to come to testify within this week, and as for precise information, the Chamber will communicate to parties concerned via email no later than tomorrow morning. So the testimony of the current witness has come to an end. So the Chamber wishes to adjourn the hearing now, and security guards are instructed to bring the co-accused back to the detention facility. The Chamber will notify relevant parties as when we are going to resume. Court is now adjourned.